The Vayrans came to Station Horizon 7 on a cold morning in the space calendar. Their ship was black like a wound in the stars. It moved slowly, like a predator that knew it had no enemies. Yuna stood behind the glass wall of the observation deck and watched the ship dock. Around her, the other workers whispered in fear. Everyone knew about the Vayrans. They were the hunters of the galaxy, 7 feet tall, covered in dark scales that moved like water, eyes that glowed soft blue in the dark, claws that could cut through metal. They had conquered 12 worlds before the Galactic Council made them stop. Now they wanted peace, or so they said. "Stay behind the security line," said Tejo, the head of station security. He was a tall man, with tired eyes. He had fought in the border wars and still carried the scars. Yuna did not answer. She was a linguist, a person who studied languages. The council had sent her here to help with communication. She had learned 47 alien languages in her life, but the Vayrans did not share their language with outsiders. She would have to learn from nothing. The airlock opened with a hiss of cold air. The Vayrans walked out in a line. Their leader was old. His scales were pale gray, and his eyes burned like dying stars. The station called him the High Fang. He looked at the humans the way a wolf looks at sheep. Behind him walked the warriors, male and female, all of them massive, all of them silent. Their claws clicked on the metal floor. Click, 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 like a countdown to something terrible. Yuna watched them pass. She counted 12 warriors, 3 advisors in long robes. She stopped breathing. There was a child. He was small, maybe 4 feet tall. His scales were darker than the others, almost black. He walked at the back of the group, half hidden behind the warriors. His eyes were not glowing with pride like theirs. They were dim, scared. He kept looking around at the station like he expected something to attack him, and in his small clawed hands, he held something. Yuna could not see what it was, but he clutched it like a treasure. The welcome ceremony was cold and formal. The High Fang spoke in a rough voice. His translator, a small device on his chest, turned his words into flat, emotionless human speech. "We come to discuss territory, not friendship. Do not mistake our presence for weakness." The station commander nodded and said polite things. Yuna did not listen. She was watching the child. He stood alone near the wall while the adults talked. No one looked at him. No one spoke to him. He was like a ghost among his own people. A female Vayran stood near him. She was younger than the warriors, but still tall and strong. She looked at the child sometimes with a strange expression. Not anger, not love. Something in between, protection mixed with shame. The ceremony ended badly. A station worker accidentally stepped too close to a Vayran warrior. The warrior grabbed him by the throat and lifted him off the ground. It took 5 security officers and a direct order from the High Fang to make him let go. "Your people are clumsy," the High Fang said. "Teach them to stay away from us." That night, the station was quiet. Most workers stayed in their rooms, afraid to walk the halls. The Vayrans had been given the East Wing, and no one went near it. But Yuna could not sleep. She kept thinking about the child, about his scared eyes, about the way he clutched that small object in his hands. She had seen many alien species in her work. She had learned that children were the same everywhere. They were curious. They were afraid. They wanted someone to understand them. She walked through the empty halls until she reached the observation deck. The great window showed a million stars burning in the darkness. It was the most beautiful view on the station. The child was there. He sat alone on the cold floor, his back to the door. He did not hear her come in. He was too focused on what he was doing. Yuna moved closer, silent as a shadow. She looked over his shoulder. He was scratching the metal floor with his claw, making marks, lines and curves and circles. He was trying to draw something, but his claws were too sharp, too clumsy. The marks were rough and ugly. He growled softly in frustration and scratched harder. Yuna understood. He wanted to create something, not destroy, not hunt, not kill. He wanted to make something beautiful, and he did not know how. She sat down beside him. Not too close, just near enough that he could see her. The child spun around, his eyes wide with fear. His claws came up in a defensive pose. A small predator, ready to fight. Yuna did not move. She did not speak. She just sat there, looking at the stars. Slowly, very slowly, the child lowered his claws. He stared at her with confusion. No one had ever just sat with him before. No one had ever treated him like he was not a monster. They stayed like that for a long time. Two strangers from different worlds, sharing the silence. When Yuna finally returned to her room, she opened her old wooden box and took out a pencil. It was yellow and worn. Her grandmother had given it to her when she was a little girl. She held it in her hand and made a decision. Tomorrow, she would teach a monster how to write. Yuna found the child again the next night. And, the night after that, he always came to the same place, the observation deck. When the adults were sleeping, he always tried to scratch marks into the floor. He always failed. On the third night, she brought the pencil. The child watched her with suspicious eyes as she sat down across from him. She placed the pencil on the floor between them. It was such a small thing. Yellow paint, worn wood, a core of gray graphite. To humans, it was nothing special. To this child, it was something from another world. He reached for it slowly, like he expected it to bite him. His clawed hand closed around the pencil. Too tight. The wood cracked. He pulled back with a hiss of frustration. He looked at Yuna with something like shame in his glowing eyes, like he had broken something precious and expected punishment. Yuna just smiled. She took out another pencil from her pocket. She always carried 3 now. This time, she moved closer. Gently, slowly, she wrapped her small human fingers around his massive clawed hand. She adjusted his grip, showed him how to hold it loose, not tight, how to let the pencil rest against his palm. The child went very still. No one had ever touched him with kindness before. Among the Vayrans, touch meant fighting or hunting, never teaching, never helping. Like this, Yuna whispered. She guided his hand to the floor, drew a simple line. Soft, slow. Let the pencil do the work. Algae, the child tried. The line was shaky and rough, but it was a line, a real line, not a scratch. He looked at it like it was magic. That was the beginning. Yuna learned his name was Kale. She learned his sister was Rin, the young female warrior who watched over him with that strange mix of love and shame. She learned that among the Vayrans, Kale was considered broken. The Vayrans did not write. They had laws against it. Young ones learned through fighting and singing battle hymns. Knowledge was passed from the strong to the strong. Writing was weakness. Writing was a disease of the mind. It made people think too much instead of acting. Kale did not like fighting. He did not roar like the other cubs. He collected strange objects, smooth stones, colored wires, broken pieces of glass. He tried to make marks with them. He wanted to create. This made him defective in the eyes of his people. They say I am sick, Kale told her one night. His voice was rough and deep, even though he was young. Speaking human words was hard for his throat. They say the healers will fix me when we return home. Quote, Yuna felt cold inside. Fix you how? Kale did not answer, but his claws trembled. She taught him faster after that. Every night, they met in the observation deck. She taught him shapes first. Circles, squares, triangles. His claws were not made for this work. He broke many pencils. He growled and hissed, and sometimes hit the floor in anger. But he never gave up. And neither did she. She made him a special tool. She wrapped cloth around a pencil to make it thicker, easier to grip. She found soft paper that would not tear under his claws. She praised him when he did well, and stayed silent when he failed, letting him try again without shame. Kael began to change. His eyes grew brighter. His shoulders relaxed. He started to make sounds that were not growls or hisses. One night, after drawing his first perfect circle, he made a sound Yuna had never heard from a Veyran. He laughed. It was a rough sound, like rocks grinding together. But it was joy. Pure joy. Teho found out on the 15th night. He followed Yuna to the observation deck and watched from the shadows. When she returned to her room, he was waiting. "Are you insane?" he demanded. His face was red with anger and fear. "You are teaching a Veyran child. Do you know what they will do if they find out? They will call it corruption. They will call it an attack on their culture. This could start a war." Yuna looked at him calmly. "He is just a child who wants to make something beautiful. If that starts a war, then we were never going to have peace anyway. Yuna, please. Think about what you are doing." "I am thinking," she said. "I am thinking about a little boy who has never been told that his dreams are worth something. I am thinking about what kind of person I want to be." Teho stared at her for a long moment. Then he shook his head. "If this goes wrong, I cannot protect you." "I know." He left without another word. Yuna returned to the observation deck the next night. Kael was waiting with a piece of paper in his claws. On it, he had drawn something new. Not shapes this time. Something from his memory. It was a picture of two figures, one tall with scales and claws, one small and soft. They were sitting together under the stars. "You and me," Kael said. "I remember now. I can keep things forever." Yuna felt tears in her eyes. She did not wipe them away. "Yes," she said. "That is what writing does. It makes memories live forever." The child looked at his drawing. Then he looked at her. "Teach me more," he said. "Teach me everything." She smiled and took out a new pencil. "First, we learn shapes. Then letters. Then words. Then we learn to show others what we see inside our hearts." Kael nodded. His eyes were burning with something new. Hope. 5 weeks passed. The negotiations between humans and Veyrans went nowhere. The diplomats argued about borders and resources, and old insults. But while the adults fought with words, something else was growing in the shadows. Kael could write now. Not perfectly. His letters were large and rough, but he could form the human alphabet. He could write simple words: star, ship, home, friend, and he had started to teach Yuna something in return. The Veyran battle tongue. It was a secret language, spoken only in their sacred halls. It had sounds that human throats could barely make. But Yuna practiced every night, and Kael corrected her with patience she had taught him. "Your sounds are too soft," he would say. "Veyrans speak from deep in the chest, like thunder," and Yuna would try again, making her voice rough and low, until Kael nodded with approval. This was their secret. A bridge between two worlds that no one else knew existed. But secrets do not last forever. Rin found them on a cold night when the station's lights were dim. She had been looking for Kael, worried when he was not in his sleeping chamber. She followed his scent through the empty halls to the observation deck, and she saw everything. Her brother, sitting close to a human, holding a strange tool in his claws, making marks on paper, laughing, a sound she had not heard from him in years. Rin stood frozen in the doorway. Her warrior training told her to attack. This was corruption. This was the human poisoning her brother's mind. She should kill the woman and drag Kael back to their people. But she did not move. She watched Yuna adjust Kael's grip on the pencil, watched her speak soft words of encouragement, watched her brother's eyes glow with happiness instead of shame. When had anyone ever looked at Kael like he was worth something? Rin stepped back into the shadows. She watched until the lesson ended. Then, She followed Yuna to a quiet corridor and blocked her path. Yuna did not run. She looked up at the massive warrior and waited. "You are teaching him the forbidden things," Rin said. Her voice was flat, dangerous. "Yes." "Why?" "Because he wants to learn. Because it makes him happy. Because every child deserves to create, not just destroy." Rin's claws flexed. "You do not understand our ways. Writing nearly destroyed our people. Thousands of years ago. We had marks, and books, and records. It created division. It started the Great War. Millions died. The Hai Fang's ancestors made a law. No writing, ever again. To write is to betray your own blood." Yuna listened carefully. "And yet Kyle still wants to. Even though he was never taught. Even though no one showed him, he still tries to make marks. Why do you think that is?" Rin had no answer. "Some needs cannot be killed," Yuna said softly. "Some parts of the soul refuse to die, no matter how hard you try to bury them." The warrior stared at her for a long moment. Then she turned and walked away, without another word. Yuna did not know if she had made a friend or an enemy. 3 days later, the answer came in a way she did not expect. A diplomatic session was held in the great meeting hall. The Hai Fang sat at one end, the station commander at the other. Advisors and warriors lined the walls. Yuna stood in the back, quiet and forgotten. The discussions were going badly. The Veyron elder, an old female with scars across her face, slammed her claw on the table. "You humans are weak," she snarled. "You hide behind marks on paper instead of facing your enemies with honor. Your treaties mean nothing. Words written on dead trees. We respect only strength and blood." The room was silent. The humans looked down, afraid to respond. Yuna stepped forward. Every eye turned to her. The Veyrons growled at her approach. Teho moved to stop her. But she raised her hand, and then she spoke, not in human language. In Veyron battle tongue. Her voice was rough and deep. The sounds pulled from her chest like thunder. The words were clumsy, but clear. "Our ancestors were weak," she said. "They had no claws, no scales, no strength. But they made marks on stone so their children would remember, so their children would not fight the same battles twice. The marks outlived the weak. The marks made us strong." The room went completely still. The Hai Fang rose slowly from his seat. His glowing eyes fixed on Yuna, with an intensity that made her blood run cold. "How do you know our sacred tongue?" he demanded. Yuna met his gaze without flinching. A teacher learns from her students as much as they learn from her. The Hai Fang understood. She saw it in his eyes. The flash of realization. The child. The forbidden lessons. The bridge being built in secret. The session ended abruptly. The Veyrons withdrew to their wing of the station. Yuna waited for guards to come and arrest her. For the Hai Fang to demand her execution. Instead, a message came to her room that night. "The Hai Fang requests your presence. Alone. Now. Now." Yuna walked to his chambers with her heart beating fast. She did not know if she would walk out again, but she knew she would not apologize. Some things were worth dying for. The Hai Fang's chambers were dark. Only a few small lights glowed on the walls, casting long shadows across the metal floor. The old Veyron sat in the center of the room, on a raised platform. His pale gray scales looked like old stone in the dim light. Yuna entered and stood before him. She did not kneel. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. "You are either very brave or very stupid," the Hai Fang finally said. His voice was like gravel. "I have not decided which. Perhaps both," Yuna said. The old Veyron made a sound that might have been a laugh. "You have been teaching the cub Kale. Teaching him the forbidden marks. Do not deny it. I do not deny it. You understand that this is a crime in our law, that I could have you killed for this." "Yes." The Hai Fang leaned forward. "Then why? Why risk your life for a broken cub that is not even your own species?" Yuna thought carefully before answering. Because he is not broken. He is different. And different is not the same as wrong. On my world, we learned long ago that the ones who see things differently are often the ones who change everything. The Hai Fang was silent for a long time. When he spoke again, his voice was softer. The cub will be sent back to the homeworld. The healers will correct him. Make him proper. It is our way. Yuna felt ice in her chest. You will destroy what makes him special. I will make him survive. A Veyran who cannot fight, who cannot hunt, who wastes time on marks and dreams. Such a Veyran does not live long among our people. Then change your people. The words hung in the air like a challenge. The Hai Fang's eyes flashed with anger. Then, slowly, something else. Something old and tired and sad. You do not understand, he said quietly. I have seen what writing does. I have seen families turn against each other over words on stone. I have seen wars started by messages that outlived their speakers. The marks are dangerous. They give power to the dead over the living. They also preserve love, Yuna said. They let children know their grandparents. They let wisdom pass across generations. They let us say, I was here, long after we are gone. The Hai Fang closed his eyes. When he opened them, there was a new look in them. A decision. There is a way, he said. An old law, older than the ban on writing. The trial of Fang. If the cub can prove that his difference has value to our people, he will be spared the correction. He will be allowed to live as he is. Yuna's heart jumped. What must he do? He must create something. Something that serves the Veyran people. Something that proves his way has worth. If he fails, he will be sent home immediately. If he succeeds, he will be protected by ancient law. When is the trial? 3 days from now. 3 days. Yuna felt the weight of it pressing down on her. 3 days to prepare a child to save himself. I need to see him, she said. You will have tonight. Only tonight. After that, he must face the trial alone. That is the law. Yuna bowed her head slightly. Thank you. The Hai Fang raised one claw. Do not thank me yet. I do not believe he will succeed. I do not believe marks on paper can have value to a warrior race. But I am old, and I have been wrong before. Perhaps I will be wrong again. Yuna found Kyle in the observation deck. He was sitting in his usual spot, but he was not drawing. He was staring at the stars with empty eyes. He already knew. Rin told me, he said when Yuna sat beside him. The trial. If I fail, they will take me home and make me like them. Make me forget how to see, how to dream. Yuna put her hand on his arm. His scales were cold and rough, but she did not pull away. You will not fail. How do you know? Because I know you. Because you have something inside you that they have forgotten. Something powerful. Kyle looked at her. The need to be remembered. The need to say, I was here, and I mattered. That need built my entire civilization. It can save you too. They worked through the night. Yuna asked Kyle about his people, about their history, about the names they had forgotten, the stories they no longer told. Kale shared everything he knew, whispered tales from his grandmother before she died, fragments of old songs that no one sang anymore. And slowly, a plan took shape. As the false dawn lit the observation window, Yuna taught Kale one final thing. Names are the most powerful words, she said. When you write a name, you make a person immortal. They can never truly die as long as their name exists. Kyle practiced through the morning. He practiced until his claws ached and his eyes burned. When Yuna finally left, she turned back to look at him one last time. Remember, she said, you are not broken. You are the future. Show them. Kale nodded. In his claws, he held the stylus Yuna had made for him from station metal. In 3 days, he would either save himself or lose everything. But he would not be afraid. He knew now what he was worth. The trial of Fang took place in the Great Hall of the Veyran ship. It was a massive space with walls of black metal and a ceiling so high it disappeared into shadow. Torches burned with blue fire, casting strange light across the gathered crowd. Every Veyran on the station was there. Warriors lined the walls, their scales gleaming, their eyes fixed on the center of the room. The elders sat on raised platforms, their old faces hard and cold. The High Fang stood at the front, watching everything. Rin stood among the warriors. Her claws dug into her palms so hard they drew blood. She could not look at her brother. She was afraid of what she would see. Kale stood alone in the center of the hall. He looked so small. A child surrounded by giants. His dark scales seemed to absorb the blue light. His eyes were dim but steady. Yuna was allowed to watch from the back, near the door. 2 guards stood beside her. She could not move. She could not speak. She could only watch. The High Fang raised one claw, and the room went silent. Kale, cub of the 4th house, you have been named defective, he announced. His voice echoed off the metal walls. You do not fight. You do not hunt. You waste your time on forbidden things. Today, you will prove your worth or face correction. This is the trial of Fang. Do you understand? Kale's voice was small but clear. I understand. Then show us. Show us what value your difference has. Show us why we should let you remain as you are. Kale looked around the room. He saw the warriors staring at him with disgust. He saw the elders waiting for him to fail. He saw his sister refusing to meet his eyes. And in the back, he saw Yuna. She nodded once. Just once. It was enough. Kale walked slowly to the far end of the hall. There stood an ancient stone, a great slab of dark rock that had traveled with the Veyrans for 1,000 years. It was sacred. It was used to mark great victories, great conquests, great kills. No one had touched it in generations because no one was worthy. The warriors laughed when Kale stopped before it. The cub thinks he is a conqueror, one of them mocked. More laughter. Kale did not react. He raised his hand. In his grip was the metal stylus Yuna had made for him. It was not a weapon. It was not a claw. It was something new. The High Fang rose from his seat. What are you doing? Kale did not answer. He pressed the stylus to the stone, and he began to write. The laughter died. The hall went completely silent. Every Veyran stared at the impossible sight, a child making marks. Forbidden marks. On their most sacred stone. The High Fang moved forward to stop him. But then he saw what Kale was writing. Names, not human names. Veyran names. Old names. Names that had been forbidden to speak for 1,000 years. The warriors who died in the Great War. The rebels who believed in writing. The mothers and fathers and children who were erased from memory when the ban began. Kale wrote them all. He wrote his grandmother's name, Villani, who had taught him in secret before she was taken away. He wrote his father's name, Torek, the silent warrior who never told anyone that he wished his son could be free. The marks were rough, but readable. The names covered the stone like a river of memory flowing back into the world. An elder screamed, "Stop him! He defiles the sacred stone," but no one moved. They were frozen, watching the child bring the dead back to life, with nothing but a piece of metal and the knowledge a human had given him. Kale wrote until his arm ached. He wrote until the stone was full of names. Names of the forgotten. Names of the erased. Names of those who had wanted the same thing he wanted to create. To remember. To be more than just hunters and killers. And then, at the very bottom, in a different script, human letters, clear and careful, he wrote one final name, Yuna. He turned to face the High Fang. His eyes were glowing now, brighter than they had ever been. "She is my ancestor now," he said. His voice rang through the silent hall. She taught me to remember. She gave me the weapon that cannot kill but cannot die. The marks. The memory. Without her, these names would be gone forever. Without her, we would have lost ourselves. The hall erupted. Some warriors roared in anger. Some elders wept a thing Yuna had never seen a Veyran do. Rin stared at the stone with tears running down her scaled face. She saw her grandmother's name. She saw names she had only heard in whispers. The High Fang walked slowly to the stone. He traced the marks with one claw, feeling the shapes of names he had carried in shame for centuries. Warriors he had known. Friends he had lost. A sister he had never spoken of. They were here now. They would always be here. He turned to KL. The room held its breath. The High Fang placed his claw on the child's shoulder. It was the Veyran sign of acknowledged kin, of respect, of acceptance. Perhaps, he said slowly, there are words we forgot. Perhaps we have been wrong for a very long time. He looked at Yuna, standing small and human in the back of the great hall. Perhaps you will teach us what we have lost. The treaty was signed 1 week later. Not in blood, as Veyran treaties had always been signed. In ink, on paper, with words that would outlast everyone in the room. The Veyrans requested something unprecedented in their request to the Galactic Council. Human teachers for their young. The ban on writing was lifted. Kale became the first Veyran scholar in 1,000 years. Years later, the great library of Veyra Prime was built. It held the stories of every Veyran who had ever lived. Warriors and dreamers, hunters and artists, the strong and the gentle. At the entrance, carved in stone that would last forever, was a single sentence in the new hybrid script that humans and Veyrans had created together. She taught us to hold the future. And below it, in a child's careful handwriting, preserved for all time, Yuna, the woman who taught a monster to hold a pencil. The woman whose name was written first.